Good afternoon, sports fans, and welcome to the only CalTV show that can win in humid weather. My name is Dan Fiedler.
And I'm Chris Carr.
And today we're going back
and forth. We begin this CalTV back and forth season with football. The Cal offense looks completely different from last season, having lost key wide receivers, a 1,500-yard rusher, and making a change at starting quarterback. The first three games for the Bears produced 2 wins against Michigan State and Washington State, and then a road loss to Maryland 2 weeks ago. So Dan, the question is, can the Bears rebound this week against Colorado State?
All right, Chris, I got to think that last week was a fluke. Maryland, we came out really flat in the beginning of the game. There was a lot of humidity in the air. The weather was not something that the Bears are used to, and they came out there on a Friday as opposed to the Thursday that is generally recommended for most football teams traveling. So, I got to think that there were some external factors at play in that game, and they're going to bounce right back against the Colorado State team that, they play in the Mountain West Conference, and they really haven't beaten anybody in a whole lot of years. Houston is sort of a no-name team, so I think it looks encouraging for this weekend.
No, it really does, but one of the things about the Maryland game that was concerning to me was Kevin Riley threw 58 passes, which is a school record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that's going to be, something to watch for in this week. I think the bye week definitely helps, and coming back home as well, too. They've won 23 of the last 27 games at Memorial Stadium. So I look for the Bears to bounce back.
Right, it's really dominating, 23 out of 27. But you got to be able to run the ball in college football. I think Javid Best looked a step slow, even before that big lick on him by the cornerback of Maryland. Everybody just looks slow, looks sluggish, and I think we'll be able to open up the running game a little bit more once everybody gets more aggressive, which will help Riley not having to force so many passes into coverage and things like that. And it looks like Colorado State is going down. Moving on to our next topic of the day, women's volleyball. The Lady Golden Bears are now number 11 in the nation after winning the Crown Plaza Classic this past week, and now they're opening up Pac-10 play against Oregon State on Thursday. Now, Chris, these Bears are 10-1 now, and given that they went to the Final Four last year, how do you envision this season playing out for them?
Dan, the volleyball team, it seems to be in a good position to get some wins this season. They're in a very tough conference. The Pac-10 has 6 ranked teams coming in.
Absolutely.
And
6 of the top 11, as a matter of fact.
Exactly.
Which is just crazy.
And the 2 teams that seem to pose the most threat to the Bears are Stanford and UCLA. Stanford returns Cynthia Barboza and Alex Klein, they both have 220 combined kills on the season already. There's still 18 games left, so it's going to be tough.
One of the things that we need to notice is that women's volleyball is dominated by the Pac-10. This is a conference that has produced the past 5 out of 7 champions in this league. And, you mentioned Stanford and UCLA, but let's talk about USC, currently ranked number 5 in the nation right now, just behind the number 4 UCLA. All the talent in women's volleyball in college, in my opinion, is in the Pac-10. And, the non-conference schedule really doesn't matter. I mean, sure, let's give some kudos to the women's volleyball team. They're 10-1. They have taken care of all their business. In that Crown Plaza Classic, they had like half of the team on the All-American or the All-Tournament team. They're playing very well, but it all comes down to how you play in the Pac-10.
What might be a factor for the Bears, though, is the loss of Angie Cressy as well. So they lose a couple of players, but overall, I believe Penn State is number 1 in the country, but outside of that, it's really dominated by the Pac-10, as you said, so it seems to be a good season so far for Cal.
Definitely.
After advancing to number 3 in the nation, the Cal men's soccer team lost a big game to number 8 Creighton 2-0 last week. They've now dropped to a 4-1-2 record, good for number 11 in the country. On the plus side, the Bears beat number 3 Maryland earlier in the season and tied number 7 SMU. They have one more non-conference game against USF before beginning Pac-10 play. Dan, Coach of the Year Kevin Grimes led the Bears to the second round of the tournament last year. Can they get any further with this big start?
All right, Chris, I got to think that this California Golden Bears soccer team is going places this year. They did slip a little bit against Creighton. They lost that game 2-0, but they've been taking care of business, as you said, against the other top-tier teams in the nation. Knocked off number 3 Maryland, tied SMU, and they beat everybody else on their schedule. And, USF they're going to take care of. They're not a top 25 team. They're chump change. And then we're moving into the Pac-10, which is really not that strong. Every other team has at least 3 losses, and this was Cal's first of the season. So it seems like they're really going to dominate.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Pac-10 schedule seems to be the most important, but in this depleted, Pac-10 conference, it seems like it's a little bit the opposite of the volleyball story that we were just talking
Exactly,
about.
right, yeah.
Because, you know, volleyball is pretty much stacked with the Pac-10, but with soccer it's a little bit under the radar, or at least not up to par, at least to use a golf term.
Exactly.
So it seems like they should be able to take care of business because they've been taking care of that top-tier talent.
Right, definitely. And, you know, the real key here is what are they going to do once they get past the Pac-10 and they go into the College Cup? You know, soccer's a little bit of a whimsical sport in that, you know, you can lose to a team pretty easily, which might happen in the Pac-10, but, you know, we can be fairly certain that they're going to rock house and then move into the College Cup, and then it's anybody's game. They got to make sure that they build up a lot of momentum.
Definitely. That's all the time we have today. For Dan Fiedler, I'm Chris Carr. Tune in next week for the next episode of Back and Forth. And tune in to CalTV, your download for what's up in Cal Sports.